On January 10, 1987, Barry Massey and Michael Harris, with the intent to commit a robbery, entered a shop in Steilacoom, Washington, owned and operated by Mr. Paul Wong. When the pair exited the shop, Mr. Wong lay brutally murdered. Barry initially confessed to the principal role in the crime, offered a version of events inconsistent with the objectively knowable facts of the crime scene, and then recanted that confession. In separate trials, Michael and Barry were convicted of aggravated first-degree murder and given sentences of life without the possibility of parole. Barry was sentenced on August 3, 1988. 2 years younger than his accomplice, Barry was 13 years old at the time of the crime, had no prior criminal contact with the police, and had been evaluated by 2 separate psychologists prior to his trial as having a mental age of 9.9 years old.
Like the one was small enough that, you could pick them up and throw them in the air and catch them like, like a little kid.
And in Barry's case, the criterion that he met was the severity of the crime. I reviewed all the other criteria, and he met none of them. In other words, he did not have a prior criminal history. He was not in any respect an emancipated youth. He was generally age-appropriate in his friends and in his behavior and in the kinds of activities he engaged in. He was still, in fact, living at home. I believe this was either the first or second night he'd ever stayed out all night. He was generally not a behavior problem at school. His IQ, which was in the high 70s, 78, 79, 80, put him in the lower 8th percentile, 9th percentile of his age group. So in terms of intellectual maturity, he was below his age group significantly. Social maturity, he was pretty consistent or a little below the typical age of a late 13-year-old. And from that standpoint, he clearly didn't meet any of the King criterion. He would not have been requested for decline if not for the severity of the crime and the nature of the crime, which was perceived as being particularly brutal and particularly adult-like in its execution.
I saw no reason to disagree with Dr. Muscatel, who had gone over the Kent guidelines. I found Barry is too immature to be treated as an adult. In no way has he been living as an adult. He has low intelligence. He needs to be treated like an adolescent or a child, which he is.
Direct evidence from Michael Harris himself, wherein he indicated that he'd supplied the gun, planned the robbery, and given the gun to Barry Massey. And then the circumstantial evidence indicating that Michael Harris was the guy that had the gun initially, ended up with the bulk of the money, was the older, more sophisticated, and the more dominant of the two. Those two things together made up the state's case against Mike Harris.
I felt that Barry lacked the sophistication and the imagination to plan such an act. He's not antisocial. I questioned his initial confession and believe it came about, as he said, due to his genuine fear for his own safety. He reported that he thought spending a little time in prison would be less bad than being beaten up by Michael Harris.
We did not go out and hire Dr. Trop initially, and she was hired by the court system, the probation department, and that was to indicate that there's no reason to think that she was just a hired gun, that the defense went out and found themselves an expert and paid him a bunch of money, and now they're saying this is the way the facts are. That wasn't what happened. And so she did an evaluation initially for the court.
When I first evaluated and interviewed Barry Massey, I concluded that he was innocent of murder. I believed he was telling me the truth when he reported that he had never been told that a murder was planned. That fits with the results of his personality testing and with the protocols of Dr. Muscatel's, which I had access to. It also explains why Barry suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. That occurs after a severe shock. Barry did admit that he was told about the planned robbery a few minutes before it occurred, but he believed that he would be innocent so long as he took nothing himself. Every piece of evidence that we have shows that Michael Harris intimidated Barry Massey.
As it stands now, you're faced with a 13 and a 15-year-old whose only options are either staying in the juvenile system till they're 21 and then being released outright, or going all the way to life without chance of parole. And maybe we ought to explore whether there's some in-between ground there.
I think the intent of the 1977 Juvenile Reform Act was good. And somehow that intent has been subverted. Frankly, as I look at the statute again from the point of view of a legislator, I can almost figure out what happened. They forgot something. The 1977 Juvenile Reform Act was intended to prevent what's going on now in the state of Washington. It specifies that there shall be a hearing on the decline of jurisdiction for 16 and 17-year-olds. And it doesn't touch anyone under 16. And I think the intent of it was that we not have decline hearings. But because we were silent on that, the assumption was that it was optional for those under 16. We thought, I wasn't in the legislature at the time, I was a judge then, but I think we thought we were reforming the law and that we would not have decline hearings on younger juveniles. That's not what happened. And yes, I think we better take another look at it. And if we mean to consider only juveniles that are 16 and 17, we better make it clearer.
You threw the gun away. Where did you get the gun?
From the dude downtown.
I mean, after this happened.
After he shot the dude?
Melody, did Michael share anything specific with you about this crime?
Just that it was this, that the man got shot and stabbed, and that Barry didn't do anything.
Did Michael or Barry tell you what their individual roles in that crime were?
Mike said that he did all of it, and he said that Barry didn't do anything. He was just there, and Barry said that he didn't do anything.
Do you think that Mike was telling the truth, or do you believe that he was just boasting to impress you or some of the other people there at Raymond Hall?
No, I mean, he may brag about his crimes, but he wouldn't, like, over-exaggerate. If Barry would have done something, he would have said to me, because it's like we've known each other for a long time, and it's like we can talk to each other, but I don't know, it's a trip.
And Michael indicated specifically that Barry did nothing?
Yeah.
And when you talked to Barry Massey, he also told you that he had no involvement in this?
Right, he was just there.
Did Michael give any reason for this crime?
He just said that he got money from the man. And I just said, well, wouldn't you rather have a burglary than a murder? And he just said, well, I don't want no witnesses. Either way, I would have done time for that, and I would have had a witness. And I was like...
Did he give that as a reason for killing Mr. Wang?
Yeah, so he wouldn't have a witness, so that the man couldn't press charges.
Did you get the impression from either he or Barry Massey that Barry did not want to be a part of this, or that he had chosen freely to go in with Mike on it?
I talked to Barry the day before I left, and I asked him if he wanted to be there, and he said that he tried to leave, but Mike went, and Mike grabbed him and told him that he had to stay to be a lookout. And so it was like, I don't know how he persuaded him or how come Barry stayed there, but Barry stayed there because, I don't know, probably because he was scared. Because Mike likes to beat up on people and stuff, and it's like, I don't know.